My name is Michael Uyehata, and I was Gaffer on Playing Ourselves. The way I've worked with Nick, I usually come on and just like run through the lighting and overheads with the director of photography. So I was Brigida. Um, run through uh, Run through it with her and just a little bit of the feel of the lighting that we want to go for with Nick. Um, and then that's mainly my job in pre-production. And then on set, it's mainly working with them to get the lighting right and managing like lighting crew and helping out with camera crew. So a lot of times the grips on set and on this set, um, a lot of times the grips are there. They have to kind of flex between lighting and camera, and so sometimes when it's a smaller sequence, um, where and the camera needs more help perhaps. Um, I'll be like the one moving lights predominantly. Normally we'll light the set. That's usually how things will go. We'll light the set for the scene, and then I myself will make like little adjustments to the lighting, while the rest of the team helps like move camera and dollies and all that stuff. So um, um, yeah, I'm just there to manage that, and if we need a courtesy, have them direct grips to do that. So yeah. I was there for the first weekend, where we were shooting basically all the outdoor stuff, all the stuff that's sort of like quick montagey shots. We got uh, mostly uh, mostly on the first day, Friday, and there we were we were doing a lot of company moves from location to location. Balboa, we moved to several different places in Balboa Park. Um, there was like an apartment. There was an apartment that we went to shoot very briefly. Um, some people took the bus. I didn't. I was not on with them for that. But did get to help later on recreate a shot that they were a pickup shot that they were supposed to get in the bus, which was actually in Leah's apartment living room. So that was a lot of fun. I mean, we were just looking at earlier footage, and you're just like, okay, well, it's all about uh, getting all the little details right, and so we see this, we see the light flicker as the bus is passing through different areas, and so we have to recreate that look, passing stuff in front of the light and everything, and that's it. A sweater. You find what you can. Um, um, you used like a wand light and a sweater, and Christian opened up the exposure for it. So yeah, you do what you can. We had this little fun moment in Leah's apartment. Sorry, Leah, where we were. We had to replace some bulbs in the hallway, um, because there was a little bit of a lighting inconsistency. Some of the bulbs were like fluorescence versus, and some were tungsten balanced, and so uh, Marielle and I worked to uh, we had to replace them. So we found a couple in the hallway, on the floor below, um, um, and it was fun trying to. Fun is one way to say it. It was interesting trying to get up there and replace them, because Marielle had to basically get up on people's shoulders, and one of us lost our balance pretty quickly, and so we had to get enlist somebody else's help. That was probably the smoothest set day, I think. I've worked at Haley's house several times before, obviously, so um, um, we're pretty familiar with how to light it, and so that day went pretty smoothly. That was an interesting one because we didn't know exactly how we were. I don't think we knew exactly how we were going to stage that shot, even in overheads. So when we got to that point, basically before that, when we were still shooting the previous sequence, Brigida was like, "Okay, we need to figure out how we're doing this." I was like, "Okay," so basically we broke out all of our lighting equipment um, to try and light that shot. We basically had to cover all of the windows, make sure all the windows are, colored, so it looks like it's evening light outside. Um, uh, we did. We had to make sure that the inside was lit um, well enough so that there's patches of light as they're walking through the as they're walking through the as they're walking through the house to give dimensionality to the scene and all that stuff. And then obviously have to light for exposure. That's the other tricky part of it. And so there's a couple of dark patches that we had to cover. Before I got to set, I knew that um, Nick and Brigida both wanted some pretty hard light coming into the house, and whenever you're working that way, and in order to make it look natural and actually hard light, you need to have the lights a certain distance from the window in order to actually get that dimensionality. So they were both telling me that they wanted the light to cut, right? And so basically you have to figure out a particular way to tent around that, and because we were shooting this entire night sequence during the day, right? So you have to figure out a way to tent so that you're giving enough space for the light to back away from the window, yet you're also covering around it so that there's no daylight getting in. So we figured out a way to use the motel, to use basically the structure of the motel, because the motel has this had this porch kind of area, and so we were able to use that, and we basically it was really fun trying to um, rig up basically to cover all around that area, and people were telling me, oh, you have the usual, oh, you have 10 minutes, you have 5 minutes, Michael, let's go. Marielle was very good about it. Once we got into the 2 minute mark, she was like, Michael. And so I was like, yes, I know. It was a very interesting day. I think afterwards we were definitely like, oh yeah, we had a lot of people on set. The room was definitely smaller than I think all of us remembered and had anticipated. So, because at the same time as we're getting I'm just talking about the lighting. I'm not even talking about all the other things we have to do on, I'm just talking about that one light source. We also had to, light, light basically. So there's this one long take in there, and you basically have to light the entire set. It's not just for this one shot. It's not just for this one angle. You're having to light the entire thing, right? And so, and hiding lights for that is always that's always really interesting. That's always a really interesting challenge. But at the same time, as I was telling you, we had to rig that one light up for the moonlight, we're also having to rig up, okay, the lights for the kitchen, and then we have to, modify the lamp, the practical, to make it look, reasonable on camera and everything. We're also having to work with getting camera equipment and dollies inside, and helping set deck where necessary, get furniture out of the place, and tidy up. So it's yeah, it's a lot of work, and a lot of work that has to be done in the limited amount of time that we have to shoot. So yeah. From this set, and this is an interesting set because there's a lot of very talented people on this set. I think everybody is. I think everybody on this set was very committed to, seeing the director's vision and everything. And not that other sets aren't like that, but this one, there's a particular sort of magic that happens when I think everybody is focused on the goal, and at the same time, everybody's following the lead of the people in front, but they know they can contribute as well. Everybody feels comfortable enough to contribute where they can. So grips are like, well, we could do, we could mount this. I'm trying to figure out how we can mount a light, and somebody like Peter Maya's just like, oh, here, what if we try this? And I'm just like, okay, yeah, go do that. It's not just me telling them everything to do. It's like, no, they feel like they're comfortable enough to contribute to the practical, and then those at the top are comfortable enough to contribute creatively where they see fit. So like, I've worked with Nick enough at this point to definitely be on terms of, well, do you think that that'll work? Okay. Do you think we could try this next shot? Um, um, Definitely develop that relationship. I think that's an important part. And it's interesting because people ask questions if they feel comfortable enough to ask questions if they don't know something. Um, you know, and everybody just wants to see on that same level, and I think that's a really really cool thing. I definitely saw that on this set. So yeah, it's been really interesting working with, and definitely a good experience. I think working with both Nicolai and Brigitte. They're definitely two very talented filmmakers, and I'm super glad that they value my input when it comes to lighting. They're not just like, oh yeah, Gaffer, just either because you get those extremes. As a Gaffer, you can either have a DP where they're just like, oh yeah, go light it, and you're just like, okay, how do you, is there something you have in mind, and you have to just pick that out of them, and it can be fun. It can be fun that way because you definitely get some creative control, right? But it's scary. And then there's the other extreme where the DP just has everything in mind, and I tend to be that way as a DP. But like, they have like every part of the image, and so you're just like, okay, well, I'll just tell me what to do, and I'll do it. I think I think my role has become sort of the the good hybrid of those two, where they have a plan in mind, right? But they're like, well, what do you think? What do you think? You know, and how do you see this? You know,
There's
um,
room for creativity.
yeah, and I think that's just a really good place. That's just a really good place for a gaffer to be, somebody that loves cinematography and loves the art of lighting. Um, that's just a really perfect place to be. So.